is really just stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is going to get a little bit technical today, so we're going to talk about the law. You may have seen it, you may not have seen it. The president said, first let me quote here, seditious behavior punishable by death. Donald Trump posted that on his Truth Social account, and let's see, this would have been 2 days ago on November 20th. And he was talking about some sitting politicians, I think they're all senators, who were reminding troops that they have an obligation, nay, a duty, to refuse to follow unlawful orders. There's been a lot of fallout from this, especially within the military community, within veterans and active duty. People are arguing about these things online. And you may not know, but I am a member of the veterans community. I did serve. I served in the Army and the Navy. And spent several years of that dealing with the Uniform Code of Military Justice as part of the military justice system. And I have a little better understanding than probably most people who are talking about it on Twitter or X, because most of what they're saying is just utter nonsense, and I got tired of it, so now I'm making this video, this podcast. I'm not doing video on this podcast. It's just too early in the morning, and I didn't feel like doing anything special, so it's just audio. And I think I'm going to do that more often now because it gives me a better opportunity to just sit down and throw my thoughts out there onto the podcast without having to worry about, is the lighting right? Is there too much light coming in from over here? What's this? Blah, blah. I get tired of doing that stuff. Besides, I'm not that handsome anyway, so I'm sure none of you are going to miss seeing this mug. But let's listen in to what the president was talking about when he said it was seditious behavior and punishable by death. We're going to play it now.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
you must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Okay, well, that was the thing that has caused all of the chaos. And if you do any searching around on social media, you're going to see a ton of stuff about it. People arguing about it, people claiming this is sedition, this is not sedition, this is not. And you're getting a lot of, I had to chime in because honestly, it's getting ridiculous. Because you have all of these former military officers and, experts, because they're experts, of course. And it goes round and round. This is sedition. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, no, it's not. So I love these, retired Army colonel here from somebody called Cynical Publius. This is sedition. Dun, dun, dun. And then, of course, Another retired Army colonel here says, no, it's not. Dr. Jeff Grammer. And then Buzz Patterson, retired Air Force colonel here. Yes, it is. And then, of course, me saying retired JAG senior NCO here, and no, it isn't. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to explain it very clearly, I hope. But here we go. So the claim is that it is sedition. And President Trump has stated that it was seditious activity, a seditious behavior, and it is punishable by death. Well, let's start from the beginning, shall we? Let's go to Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 2381, which covers treason. I'm going to read directly from the statute, and it states, however, owing allegiance to the United States, I'm sorry, I got to start over. Whoever, why did I say however? Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death, or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding office under the United States. So, in my opinion, actually, that goes from the extreme, which is the most you can do, which is killing them, to, or just, going to prison for 5 years. I mean, there's a big difference between that. You can go to prison for 5 years for a lot of things that are nowhere near eligible for the death penalty. It's not a capital crime. But treason, just like, well, do we kill him or just, I don't know, put him in for 5 years for the same thing we do to somebody for their third DUI? That's a huge gap there. So I'm assuming there might be something in between there, but the statute actually doesn't give you much leeway. You either got to kill him or you got to put him in prison. So that's treason. And what's happening here is the president and everybody else is conflating treason and sedition. And they are two very different things. So that's the next thing we're going to cover. Sedition itself is covered under, well, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up here, because after treason, you have misprision of treason. All right, so this is something nobody ever talks about, but this has probably happened more than any of these other things. Okay, so this is Title 18, and it's Section 2382, misprision of treason. Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States and having knowledge of the commission of any treason against them, conceals and does not, as soon as may be, disclose and make known the same to the President or to some judge of the United States or to the governor or to some judge or justice of a particular state is guilty of misprision of treason and shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 7 years or both. So you get a maximum 7-year sentence or less for not reporting treason happening. If you're aware that someone is committing treason and you do not immediately report it and rat them out, you're guilty of this crime, and you can go to prison for up to 7 years, which is longer than the minimum sentence for treason, which is 5 years. I don't know. These laws were written a long time ago, I'm sure. But I guess the last time it was updated was, this one is 1994. Okay, so then you get rebellion or insurrection, which is Title 18, Section 2383. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Now, we had a lot of talk about insurrection back during January 6th and January 6th of 2021 and the subsequent years. And there were a whole lot of people. Well, there was really only a handful of those hundreds of people who were actually charged with insurrection. So you're talking about, the guy, the eye patch guy from the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, and people like Joe Biggs and Enrique Tarrio from the Proud Boys. Those guys got huge sentences, 15 to 20 years. And, of course, they all got pardoned and got out and, yay, look at us. And so anyway, I have a kind of a history with Joe Biggs, and, I can tell you guys about that some other time. But we know each other in passing. We've spoken on the phone and stuff years ago when we were talking about something completely unrelated to any of this. But anyhow, that's where that's been the source of us hearing about insurrection a lot the last few years. And of course, they all got pardoned. So they're all out there roaming the streets, planning their next assault on the Constitution or whatever it is they're doing. Now, seditious conspiracy. And that is Title 18, Section 2384. Seditious conspiracy, because there isn't really a thing for sedition. You're committing sedition, but the sedition in the United States is a conspiracy. So, here it is. If two or more persons, that satisfies the conspiracy aspect of it, because in order for it to be a conspiracy, there has to be two or more people involved. Okay, so that's where it starts. If two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States, contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both. So where do we have some issues with this is sedition, punishable by death? Well, the punishments of the available punishments at the end of this statute are not death. You can be imprisoned, but for a maximum of 20 years, and you can be fined. You can always be fined and have to pay a fine. But the thing that's going to be the worst is the imprisonment or the execution or whatever. And in this case, you can be imprisoned, but not more than 20 years. It involves more than one person. So, okay, our little video audio thing of the senators and congresspersons talking about the laws and the service members and the people in the intelligence community. It's obviously more than one person, so it could be considered a conspiracy. But it isn't a conspiracy to commit any of these crimes. None whatsoever. So that's seditious conspiracy. You cannot be put to death for it. It is not a capital offense. Period. The end. Trump is wrong. And all the people who were posting, yes, let's hang them all, and things like that Trump was actually reposting these things that people were all talking about, we got to kill these people. They're all wrong, because, I'm sorry, but the death penalty is not an available punishment for sedition or seditious conspiracy. All right? Now, advocating for the overthrow of the government. That's Title 18, Section 2385. I'm just going to, read it real quick like I did the other one. Whoever knowingly or willfully advocates, abets, advises, or teaches the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States or the government of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof, or the government of any political subdivision therein, by force or violence, or by the assassination of any officer of any such government, or whoever with intent to cause the overthrow or destruction of any such government prints, publishes, edits, issues, circulates, sells, distributes, or publicly displays any written or printed matter advocating, advising, or teaching the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States, etc., etc. Whoever organizes or helps attempt to organize a group for the same purpose, yada, 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 shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department or agency thereof for the 5 years next following his conviction. So it's his, I don't know, because I guess, written a long time ago. If two or more persons conspire to commit any offense named in this section, each shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both, and be ineligible for the same things. As used in this section, the terms organizes or organize with respect to any society, group, or assembly of persons, including the recruiting of new members, the forming of new units, and the regrouping or expansion of existing clubs, classes, and other units of such society, group, or assembly of persons. Man, writing laws in the United States is insane, is it not? Is it just not crazy? Anyhow, what these people are doing in this audio that was played, and you can go hear it anywhere. You can just type in senators / sedition, and you're going to find this video eventually. It's an advertisement. It's an ad that was run. And what they're saying is you have an obligation, a duty, to refuse to follow unlawful orders. And I am sorry to all the people who want to execute everyone who does not fall to their knees and worship Donald Trump, but you seriously do, as a member of the military, have a duty. It is called a duty in much of the correspondence on this topic within the military to refuse an unlawful order. So what constitutes an unlawful order? It's it's any order that requires you to break the law in order to do it. So I'm just going to make up just a scenario, but let's say you're out on patrol. You're, a group of grunts out on patrol, and your commander doesn't like the way that 14-year-old kid down at the end of the street is staring you down, so he tells you to just shoot that kid. Shoot that 14-year-old kid who's unarmed, who's down there flipping you the bird. Shoot that little sumbitch. That's murder. And he can't make you do that. He can't order you to do that and then punish you for not doing it. So you, as the person holding the rifle, have to make this decision in your brain. Am I going to just do what I was just told to do because I'm, faultless in this, in the equation now? Because I have the gun. The person who tells me what to do with my gun just told me to do this thing, so I can just do it. Your own moral compass should immediately tell you, why would I be shooting this unarmed 14-year-old kid just because he's flipping us off? So what you're supposed to do is go, sir, I cannot shoot an unarmed child just because he's pissing you off. And then he'll yell at you or whatever. But, he may even freak out and say, you know what, I'm going to have you court-martialed or whatever. You just say, okay, let's go, because there is no way in hell that is going to hold up. There's no way in hell you'll get an Article 15 for it. Nothing. As soon as the Trial Defense Services or JAG, anyone sees that, it's over. Because it's simply going to be over, because everyone is going to recognize very clearly that officer gave you an unlawful order. He was telling you to commit a crime. Now, are there a whole bunch of people in the military who are just going to blindly follow that order? You betcha. And there are a whole bunch of people who did during the global war on terror, and I'm sure in previous conflicts as well. But there were a lot of people who did a lot of things that were illegal. And this is not me hating on our own military. This is me hating on people who didn't have the morals and the ethics to be trusted with items that can destroy other people. Because there's a lot of people out there who did not care about collateral damage or the loss of civilians. Or were there women and children in that building you just dropped a JDAM on? Nobody seemed to care. I shouldn't say nobody. There's a lot of people who really did not care. Probably because they were brown people or whatever excuse you want to use. Some of them are just murderous sumbitches. And they wanted to kill as many people as possible. And Trump was, gracious enough to pardon the people that we were successful in getting charged and convicted with war crimes, people who should be in prison for the rest of their lives and would have been if Trump hadn't intervened and decided, well, I'm going to pardon them, just like he pardoned the people on January 6th from the whole debacle down there. We're never going to pardon anybody who assaulted police officers. Hundreds of those people assaulted police officers, and he pardoned them all. Several of those people so far have also been rearrested for other crimes, including child molestation, because they were just a bunch of shitbags to begin with, and he shouldn't have pardoned any of them. But that's how he rolls. He knows what side his bread is buttered on, as they say, and he knows where his campaign donations are going to come from, and he knows who he has to support in order to hang on to as much power as possible. But there were a bunch of war criminals who were not punished, or we tried to punish them, and they were pardoned and let go. And you know the names, they were all in the news. And the minute somebody says, a person didn't commit a war crime, I'm sorry, but yes, they did. I'm sorry you don't understand how war works. I'm sorry you don't understand what the laws of war work, the laws of unarmed conflict, international law, the Geneva and Hague Conventions, etc., but I do. And many of my friends do. And a lot of that was bullshit. They were committing war crimes. I'll give you an example. There was a documentary on television, it's probably 10 years ago, but it was about Green Berets in Afghanistan. And in the filming of this documentary, a war crime was committed. And it wasn't even mentioned that it was a war crime. I'm not going to go into great detail because I don't want to give too many details so that people can figure out what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. And then that person decides he wants to sue me like a bunch of other shitbag conspiracy theorists have over the years. But a child, a teenager, was shot twice. An unarmed teenager was shot twice in the chest by a Green Beret. He was doing nothing except riding in the back of a pickup truck. And when it was mentioned in the documentary, they say, the Green Beret fired 2 warning shots. What? 2 warning shots into the kid? That doesn't seem like much of a warning to me. That sounds like attempted murder. And that guy should have been arrested and he should have been put on trial. The kid didn't die. And that's probably the only reason why nobody pushed for that, because they were able to save him. They rendered medical aid, sort of, after he sat there and was in agony for a while. Then they were trying to, help him a little bit. But that Green Beret should have been on trial for attempted murder because he shot an unarmed teenager who was doing nothing except riding in the back of a pickup truck. And then when you want to use the excuse, well, he thought he was firing warning shots. He was just that bad of a shot that he actually hit somebody. Sorry, but warning shots were not approved under the rules of engagement at the time, so he was also violating the rules of engagement. Thirdly, or fourthly, or whatever it is, he was using a suppressed rifle. So how is it a warning shot if you're firing rounds at people from a suppressed rifle and they don't even know you're shooting at them? You're riding in the back of a loud truck because, trust me, they don't have any of those, fuel efficiency and emissions standards in Afghanistan. So the thing doesn't have a muffler on it and it's not going down the road, bouncing up and down because there isn't any paved road up there. Do you think they're going to hear rounds coming from a silenced M4 from 150 yards away and go, oh, someone's shooting at us as a warning. No, their warning was, oh my God, I have 2 holes in my chest. So, war crimes. And a lot of them went unpunished, even unrecognized, even when it was on television. Because so many people don't understand what the actual laws of war are. But I guess that's getting off topic. So these senators and Congress critters, whatever you want to call them, I really don't have much respect for any politicians, no matter what side of the aisle they're on or no matter which house of Congress they're from, because politicians, for the most part, are just a bunch of power-hungry fucking monsters. And so I sometimes just call them all names, put them all in a large basket, because sometimes I wish that large basket was underneath a hot air balloon and they would all just float away somewhere so we didn't have to think about them anymore. One of them is leaving, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she had a falling out with President Trump. And all it takes is for President Trump to say, oh, she's a loser. And as a Republican, your career apparently is over. So instead of fighting with President Trump, who she now no longer supports, because she called him out on his bullshit, she's decided to just leave office. She's not going to run for re-election. She's going to vacate her seat in January. And yes, a lot of people are like, she's waiting until after January 3rd, whenever her pension becomes vested or whatever. Yeah, so what? So what? You would do the same thing. Stop being an idiot. And there isn't going to be a whole lot that any of them are going to do between Thanksgiving and New Year's anyway. What do you think she's going to be? Oh, so busy up there in Congress. No. So who cares? They're provided this pension. You know, we let them do all that shit. So it's a little late for us to go back now and say, because it's her, we don't want her to get a pension. That's just crooked. And it's hypocritical, and so knock it off, because you would do the same thing, because that's exactly what people would advise you to do. Hey, wait until after January 3rd so that your pension, you'll get your pension. And you'd have to be an idiot to not do that. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never have. I think she's an absolute fucking moron. But she seems to be getting smarter by the day. So she saw behind the curtain. She saw how DC operates and how the corruption and the bullshit happens every day. And eventually, somehow, it got to her. And I think a lot of it apparently had to do with the Epstein files, when she saw the Republicans fighting so hard to prevent the release of the Epstein files. It was absurd. Absolutely absurd. Why are they doing it? No one knows, other than, gee, they must be protecting people. Everyone. They're protecting everyone. Because there's probably a lot more people than we're aware of in those files. Anyway, I just thought I would educate everybody on what actually is seditious conspiracy and what you can really do about it. And it has happened throughout our history, and they don't execute people for it because that's not one of the available punishments for that. And what these people did was not sedition. It wasn't seditious, and it wasn't treasonous. I've seen that word thrown around too, treasonous, but it's not. They are reminding people that they have an obligation to refuse to follow lawful orders, and that is built into our oath of enlistment. It says, I'll obey the orders of the president and the officers appointed above me within regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which the regulations and the UCMJ say it has to be a lawful order. You don't have to follow an unlawful order. So fighting that battle, would it be easy for a young trooper? Let's say, I don't know, an E3, a PFC, going, hey, wait, this is an unlawful order. I don't have to follow it. So I'm going to stand my ground on this one, sir. Yeah, you might get detained. You're probably going to be sent somewhere to sit down and be locked away for a little bit. And then they're going to give you an attorney. And if you're smart, you're never going to say anything else until you've spoken to this attorney from the trial defense services, the defense attorneys from the JAG Corps. Sit down with one of them, and they'll say, "Oh, actually, you know what? That really is an unlawful order." Or they're going to say, "Hey, sorry, pal, you need to go back and apologize because it was a lawful order that you were given, and you're just a shitbag who didn't want to do any work today." And they will tell you that just because they're trial defense attorneys and that they're essentially there to help you defend yourself. It doesn't mean they're going to lie to you and say, "Yeah, let's fight this thing." No. They're not. They're going to say, "Sorry, kid, you're wrong. Go back, throw yourself at the mercy of your commander and hope he doesn't throw your ass all the way out of the military." You can beg for maybe just an Article 15 because you've made a spectacle of it now. So it isn't something you can take lightly. It isn't something that you can talk to that E4 barracks lawyer about who's going to tell you, "Oh, no, that's illegal. They can't do that." Well, most of them don't know. Most people in the military have no idea what the military justice system is. They have no idea what the regulations are or what the UCMJ says. So it's hard to trust anybody. And that includes people up to and including field grade officers, flag officers. It doesn't matter. You're not trained to be a JAG attorney just because you hold the rank of colonel. That's why you have a JAG officer on your staff. That's why you have JAG NCOs who follow you around. It's because you're not supposed to understand the law. That's not your job. Your job is to command troops and win wars. That's why you are given JAG officers, so that when you have a question about the law, they can inform you and, advise you on it. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it was intended to be. And most people don't utilize them correctly, and they don't ask first. A smart commanding officer calls his JAG officers first and says, "You know what? I have this thing going on, and I would like to do this to this person, but I'm not sure if that is within regulation or appropriate according to the UCMJ." And that's when JAG goes, yes, you can do that. Or, "No, sir, I'm sorry, but you can't." And I had the privilege, I was just an E5 at the time, but a lieutenant colonel. I was the nearest JAG representative on this post. They had a bunch of National Guard units that were there, or they're training up to head overseas, right? So my unit was helping run the training rotation for them. We went through it, and then we stayed there and ran the training rotation for the next people. And he had an incident. He had a soldier he wanted to discipline. So I was the nearest JAG guy, or gal. So he summoned me to his office. He's not in my even battalion. So summons me to come over to their headquarters and says, "Sergeant, I have this happening, and I want you to write up this Article 15 because I'm going to punish this person under this article, and this is what we're going to do." And I had the odd and uncommon ability to say, "I'm sorry, sir, but no, you can't do that." And you should have seen the look on his face, because this E5 just told this lieutenant colonel that he can't do that. And he was not happy about it. And so he asked me to explain myself. And I said, "Well, sir, the article that you just cited that you want to punish this person under doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So you're going to have to come up with a better idea." And so it turned into a conversation more of, "Well, what can I do?" And I said, "Well, let me go back to my office. I'll sit down with the regs. I'll sit down with the MCM, and we'll figure out exactly what this person violated for real. And we'll come up with a specification, see if he meets it. And then I'll come back and we'll discuss, well, I'll tell you what your options are going to be." And he jokingly said, "All right, well, you're fired. Get out." And so I left. But I went back later that afternoon and explained it to him. I was like, well, you can't do the thing that you wanted to do, but you can do this, because the person was guilty of doing this. And so, you're free to handle it that way if you'd like. But literally, the commanding officer thought, and it has to do with a lot of rumors and just folklore within the military, where people think certain things are against military law and they really aren't. Like, oh, you got a sunburn, they're going to charge you with damaging government property. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorites. That is not a thing. That is not a thing that has ever happened, and it's not a thing that can ever actually happen. Ever. It's not a thing. You got a sunburn. That's it. Sorry, it sucks that you have a sunburn. You didn't break the law, and you didn't damage government property, because regardless of how you get treated when you're in the military, and regardless of how you might feel, you're not technically government property. You're a person with agency and with rights. But yeah, that used to be one of my favorites. You got a bad sunburn, you're going to get charged with damaging government property. Well, no, you weren't. And you never were, because it was never a thing, but somehow it became one of those, junior enlisted folklore things. And you could wind up with an 05 or 06 or even an 07 who thinks it's real, but it's not. So that's the gist of it. But if you want to talk about encouraging people to not follow lawful orders, those same people who are bitching and moaning about this little video that the senators and Congress critters put together probably supported the troops disobeying the lawful order to receive a COVID vaccine. So if you've got a person who's making a whole lot of noise about it, maybe go back and see how they reacted to the whole COVID vaccine thing. Because if they were telling their soldiers and telling their constituents back then, you don't have to take this vaccine, they can't do anything about you, and they got kicked out of the military for failing to follow a lawful order, you don't have the moral authority to be upset about this one. Because this was not telling anyone to disobey any lawful order. They're telling people that you do not have to. You actually have a duty and an obligation not to follow unlawful orders. That's it. And the world does not operate the way Caroline Leavitt, the spokesperson for the White House, wants it to be, where she said every order the president gives is lawful, because that's a whole load of shit. That's not true. It's never been true. It's not. And gee, I don't know. Look in a history book. Just in my lifetime, maybe Watergate, maybe Iran-Contra, maybe there is no such thing as a law or an order being lawful simply because of from whom it originated. It just isn't a thing. The law is the law. That's it. If there's gray area, you go to court and you argue about it. But that's the extent of it. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. I know it's a little specific because it's the law, but it has to be specific because it's the law, and you can't make it fuzzy because it's not fuzzy. It's pretty plain, and all you have to do is go to the law and read the statutes yourself, and you'll know that these people who keep flapping their yaps about all of this garbage, none of them know what they're talking about. And I'm sorry, but I had to insult a colonel on Twitter, X, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'm sorry that I have to tell you that. But just because you were a colonel in the artillery doesn't mean you know a goddamn thing about the law. So maybe sit this one out and go back to golfing or whatever it is the fuck you losers do when you retire, because I'm never going to have the chance to actually be retired. So I get bitter about it. So I will talk to you all later. We're going to do a lot more of this audio only stuff. It's so much easier for me to do. I don't have to get my hair done or anything, but that's not really why. But I'm going to stop this and, hey, take care of yourselves. Actually, maybe research some stuff, read the law, and don't listen to the losers on X and on Facebook who think they understand the law and military regulations, because even people who spent entire careers in the military don't. They don't know what military justice is. They don't know what the UCMJ says or military regulations, because most of them have never had to deal with it. So, take care. Let me know your comments sections. Hey, give me a like, give me a subscribe, do whatever it is you can do on whatever platform you listen to this on. I don't check. I have no idea how many people follow this podcast. So let me know. Make a comment, even if it's like, hey, we think you're stupid, which is what people on YouTube do. Good people don't comment on YouTube. It's only bad people. So, if you're doing this on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a nice review or something, because it's always the shit bags who are like, you know what you're talking about. And I'm ignoring them now because they're all stupid. So anyway, take care. Goodbye. Here's the outro. Love ya.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.